Good morning. Hi, everyone. This is Antonio Muñiz. Welcome to the next episode of LatProXperience, when we talk about entrepreneurial success through the Latino lens. Today, I have an amazing guest, a great human being, an amazing business owner, and a friend, Daisy Ramirez. Daisy, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Antonio. Thank you so much for the opportunity, my friend. This is amazing work. This is amazing work. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you making time for this. And you're amazing. That's why we're here to talk today in Lab Pro Experience. So I know quite a bit about you. I know a little bit about your journey, but perhaps not everyone who's connecting today knows you the same way. So let's start there. So tell us, who
Yep.
is Daisy Ramirez?
Let's see. Oh boy, where do you start? Right, the day that you were born, is that when the story starts? But
That's when it starts for you, but I don't think we need to hear all of that.
right, right. Yeah, I can start there. Um, I'm the daughter of two beautiful Puerto Rican parents. Very hardworking parents. Mommy's from Catania, papi's from Mayagüez. Uh, we were raised in Ohio. So very, very different than we were born in New York, but I was born in New York, but raised in Ohio, which is a little bit different, for a little bit of a different upbringing for us. But ever since we were young, community has been such a big thing. I have so many people that I can think back to that have molded right your path. And you know how they always say there's a fork in the road, and I can't imagine how many forks in the road I've had where my upbringing alongside the community that I grew up with pretty much defined me and made me the person that I am today. Um, so the story is in Ohio. I'm the first college graduate in my family, um, and that says quite a bit as well about my parents. They had never made me feel limited in any way. I think when I was 9 or something or 10 years old, I claimed to have wanted to be a president of the United States one day. And,
Of
and
course you
Papi
did.
said, "Well, then you got some work to do. Then there's a lot to do." Like, yeah, and so I would get involved in all my paperwork, which were just bills, and what is it? Remember the lottery tickets that
Yeah.
mommy and puppy used to play, because they were going to hit it big, and I would reconcile all those, and like I was 9 or 10, I didn't know what I was doing. But I had always had some kind of, I've always had a system since I was little. It was kind of weird. I was very organized. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had files, and I would keep track of, mommy and papi's bills. And then I would do reconciliation and just say, mom, you remember that bill you said you guys had? Well, I calculated all the lottery tickets, and we spent like $500 in lottery tickets last year, and that could have paid the bill, right? And then mommy said, Mama, go do something else. Go play outside. So but those are the things that when you're little, you think back to it. I'm like, there was a little something going on back then, where you're kind of interested, you're kind of involved in why mommy and puppy might be struggling, or
Yeah.
trying to figure out a problem, like I wonder why that is. Maybe we could fix it. Uh, so that's kind of how the journey started. Like I said, I was the first college graduate for my family. And but just like anything else in life, as you make those journeys and you accomplish certain goals, you bring people up with you. So I made sure that my family was taken care of thereafter, as much as I could, helping my brother out in school as well to make sure he followed the same path and got an education, and as best as I could. And then but then, of course, after the family, right, you kind of go out on your own, but you always have them with you. You always carry them with
Mhm.
you, and everything that they've taught you. So uh, after college, I went on to corporate. I worked for Gatorade in
Okay.
logistics. What an amazing experience! Once again, mentors there. I was a woman in a male-dominated industry. Things could have again forks in the road, right? Things could have gone any which way.
Yeah.
But I had tremendous people on my path that, pulled me aside and says, "Hey, listen, this is something that you might want to work on. This is, and I was just a giant sponge at that point in time, so I just kind of absorbed it, and appreciated all the efforts that people have made along, the path there. But then after that, I was relocated a couple of times with my company, Gatorade, Quaker Oats, and I ended up on the West Coast, where my mom said, "Mama, you're going to meet your husband out there, and you're never going to come back home." And I was like, "No, Mom, I'm coming back. It's no big deal." I thought, and then of course I met my husband, and 16 years later, right? um, but life is progressing. Life is progressing, and I married my husband in California. Um, but part of the marriage proposal at the time was that I would help him uh, grow his company, right? So that was part of the marriage proposal. See the romance that's involved along the way
I
there,
should have learned that earlier. I think
right?
everybody should have clauses to the marriage
Right.
proposal.
There's clauses, there's agreements, negotiations. Um, but it was all good. It was all fun. He had a small, labor management software company out of the house, and we grew the company. I knew that in order to grow, we needed to add employees. In order to add sales, we had to add, an accounting department. We needed all of these resources in order to scale. Getting there right financially was the challenge. So, we had to start small. Get a little office space, and start small that way. Hire our first employee. So we kind of inched our way through, little by little. But in the process, I tell you, through any of these opportunities, the amount of information that you learn, from everyone, from your employees, from the manager that you report to, from the leaders that are talking and, announcing things throughout the, major things that might be going on in the company. You learn style, you learn presence,
Hmm.
right? You never think that people are watching those things or absorbing those things, but
Yeah.
you do learn. You learn how people come across and how you want to come across, as you're projecting the information that you've learned in your, on your journey. And it's like I said, the people along the path, amazing, amazing people. But
That's crazy. There's so
mhm,
many similarities to your story. We've been blessed to have over 80 episodes of LatPro Experience, and after
mhm.
that many episodes, you start seeing trends and common denominators, right? And
Oh,
numbers big
good.
enough to tell a story. And I will tell you that quite a few, I mean, a large percentage of our
Hmm.
guests, first generation college graduates,
Interesting.
large
Yes.
percentage.
Hmm. Hmm.
Another big chunk of denominator, common denominator of those of us who were born in Puerto Rico, and let's talk about Puerto Rico because
Hmm.
that's who I am and that's who you are, right?
Right.
So
Right.
uh, a chunk of us who were born in the island came to the U.S. at age 15. You have no idea how many people I talked to that was the age that they landed in the U.S. because their parents
15.
brought them, right? Not because they had a choice. I didn't have a choice.
Right.
Um, and the other thing that kind of struck me in your journey is a really really great close friend of mine has a similar story to yours when about being organized, and
Mm.
she's actually an accountant. She has a very successful accounting firm in Central Florida, and she would tell me part of her story is that she would look at all the bills and kind of consolidate that at a very young age, and
Really?
she would look at because they were struggling in
Yeah.
Connecticut financially. She was in charge of looking for job postings in the classified ads. So
Mm.
she loved reading, and she loved reading the fine print and circling things and handing that to their parents and telling them this is what the job is, because
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
the only one who could speak English at the time. And
Wow.
because of that, listen to this thing. This is crazy. Because of that, she learned the word bookkeeping. And because she
Okay.
loved books, she thought bookkeepers kept books and
Yeah.
read a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
books. So she said, I want to be a
Hmm.
bookkeeper. And
Right,
here
right,
you go.
right.
Fast forward to today, and she has a very successful accounting firm
Mm-hmm.
here in Central Florida. So it's just crazy how the
It's
similarities.
awesome.
And
I love it.
your parents are from Mayagüez. I'm from Mayagüez, born and raised in
Ah,
Mayagüez.
very good.
Uh,
Good.
um, you spent a lot of time in Ohio. I spent 12 years in Ohio. So
Wow.
it's it's amazing the things that you learn just having a conversation, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
yes.
and one thing is talking, another thing is connecting, right? And
Mm-hmm.
through this conversation, what we're hoping to do is not only connect to one another, but also have the audience connect to us
Yes.
and find those points of commonality, and say, wow, Antonio has this path, Daisy has this path, they've had this, they've been able to achieve this in their
Mm-hmm.
spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can too. Why not? You know? So anyway,
Absolutely.
I just thought that it was crazy to highlight some of those similarities before I forgot them, honestly. So
That's great research, you know?
yeah, it's crazy. Very young age, born in New York, Puerto Rican parents, raised in Ohio, like a lot, like millions of Puerto Ricans, right? They have
Mm-hmm.
that path.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Corporate America, first generation graduate, college graduate. I'm not a first gen. My father went to college before me. My mother had, I think, 1 year of college
Mm-hmm.
also before me. So I mean, I think I graduated faster, but that doesn't mean that I'm first gen. My wife is
Sure.
first gen, and a lot of our
Mm-hmm.
friends are first generation college graduates.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you go into Gatorade logistics, you grow through that, you find some great mentors that help you along the way. The big lesson, hey, we can learn with and through each other. Yes, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people
Absolutely.
guide you along the way, and we don't take that for granted. And the learning is in the doing, right? You gotta
Mm-hmm.
do to learn and be around the
Yes.
people who know a little bit more. So you're in corporate America, you're doing well, you're in California, you get married. What happens next?
Now we've got a new venture, right? Now there's this new business. Um, After Gatorade, I was maxed out at Gatorade in the facility that I was in, and I had to make a decision, which was kind of a tough one because I was on a path to head up to corporate headquarters for Gatorade, and at that point I had to make a decision, as to what the path was going to be that I was going to follow. Am I going to be completely career oriented and push, 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 or am I going to take a minute and consider my life um, personally too, right? And I think everyone kind of reaches that point, where we have to decide the fork in the road. We have to decide what's going to happen. And I had to decide if I was going to stay and consider getting married with my husband, right? Possibly have a family, and go that path, or should I go? Because I was slated to be potentially at one point a vice president of operations at corporate headquarters,
Let
which
me
is
ask you,
big.
it's a
Hmm.
big opportunity. But let me
Hmm.
ask you this, because I think a lot of times I'm not a woman, so I take
Hmm.
certain things for granted, a lot of things
Yeah.
for granted, honestly. It's a different experience. So at
Hmm.
that time, did you believe that it's one or the other? It's
I did.
family or okay.
I did. I did. But you know what? It's a good question. I did think it was one or the other. The position was going to be in Chicago, right? I was living in California. Um, so that's a big transition. Not that I haven't done it before, and kept a relationship before and traveled or relocated, but I never thought at any point in time, and again, I think this comes from mommy and papi. I never thought at any point in time that I would not have another opportunity that I could completely flourish at.
Okay.
And it might be blind faith, right? It might be a little bit of not being naive that this is all good. I'll just get another position or do something else, and I'm going to do just as well.
Yeah.
Um, so it might have been being a little bit naive, and also, like I said, mommy and papi always made me think that what are you going to do next? What's on the list? Um,
But see, I don't
so
think that's naive, honestly, Daisy. I don't think
you don't
that's
think so?
naive. I think it's just a different way of framing the world and framing the
Hmm.
opportunity. I think that is I can do it. It's possible. Is anyone doing it? I mean, perhaps you're not going through that exercise in your head, but you hear it so
Mhm.
often that you can do X, whatever X
Right.
is, that's the way you operate. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of us do our young people a disservice by telling them, be careful. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Hmm.
I'm not
Hmm.
saying be reckless, but be
Right.
open to opportunities in a more
Hmm.
in a broader way. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? You never go into anything without a plan, right? Even if the plan just completely falls apart, but you always go into something with a plan. So then I made that call, right? And then I says, okay, I'm staying here. I joined a startup, a technology startup, and again, good people, amazing people. That one felt they actually ended up having to downsize. So I got downsized for the first time, you know. So that felt different, because I
sure.
thought, well, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, me, but I think that was the little slap around that I needed, to kind of say, well, uh, let's come up with a good and a solid plan,
Another
because
plan,
things
right?
like this are going to happen. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
going to happen, so what are you going to do? So that point in time, what my husband said, okay, let's grow the company. You've got the skill set. You can obviously run a business. Let's do this. So, like I said, fast forward, a little bit by little, we ended up getting office space, hiring employees. And then when I ran the company, the labor management software company, and then um, we were up to 11 employees at one point
Well,
in time. Number three in the country as far as sales. For this particular product that we provided. And in that, wow, I mean, I can't. The amount of learnings in that. Again, already knowing that I'm running the business and I'm kind of learning as I go, kind of thing. But with a good foundation, gratefully. But um, processes. You know, again, my organizational skills kind of came through because we're implementing software, so that has to be very meticulous. The project plan that you're putting in place, you're executing the plan. You're hiring the right people for the project. You're training the people. You're doing the sales aspect, and that's what I love about entrepreneurship. And I think you can relate.
hmm
When you run your own business, that is probably the most experienced individual that you will have because we wear so many hats. You will know accounting, you will know marketing, you will know sales, you will know the actual job that you're performing. You're going to learn leadership skills whether you like it or not. You're going to learn how to manage people. Um, I mean, what a well-rounded individual, one that can run a business. I mean, that's somebody that I would want in my establishment any day. Somebody
right.
who has run a business before, because it's scrappy, it's gritty, and
hmm
it's not glamorous a lot of times. These are people that work hard. They put in the hours, they learn as they go, and they want to learn more, and they want to keep pushing more. That's exciting stuff to work alongside. People like that. But I mean, that was the experience there. I mean, yeah, we struggled. I learned how to. I won't say rob Peter to pay Paul, but to communicate effectively with Peter in order to pay Paul. Right?
I robbed
I did a lot
everybody.
of that.
I've robbed
Yeah.
everybody, Daisy, to pay for.
Right. I mean, but that's what I had to make the tough call. With our vendors. We're short this month. But we've got some projects coming in. Those are tough calls to make. And talk about somebody with a lot of pride. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
and then having to make that call. That I'm going to need a little bit more time in paying the invoices. And but
Let me
uh,
let me ask you this because I had a conversation with another friend of mine recently, and she has a similar background like you and I. I spent 12 years in corporate America. You spent a bunch of years in corporate big companies, right?
yeah.
Big global companies, and we know what it's like to have resources and have
Hmm.
very limited resources on our
Yeah.
own once we transition to the entrepreneurial world. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that she told me, because her name is Carolina, and her business is fractional CFO, CMO type,
Mm-hmm.
chief financial officer, chief marketing officer for small to mid-sized companies,
Mm-hmm.
and in business development and brand management. And what she said to me, that it makes sense when she said it, but I hadn't thought about it. I thought about it before. Is that when she was in a large organization, she was in Kraft, uh,
Oh yeah.
global
Yeah.
company, and she said when we were launching a new brand or a new product in a new country, it is not dissimilar to what a small business has to do in their local market to launch their brand, their
Mm-hmm.
product, their company. It's not dissimilar. It's very closely aligned. The difference in many cases is resources, but the
Yeah.
biggest difference is resourcefulness. So you can
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
all the resources in a company, but if you don't have a tight pitch, in her words,
Yeah.
you're not going to get the resources to launch.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a small, and it happens similarly in the small business world, if you don't have a clear message and a clear problem that you're solving in the marketplace, you're not going to get the traction either.
Yeah.
So that was a big moment for me, just to hear her articulate her experience
Mm.
and both sides of the equation. Go, wow, that is so true.
Yeah.
So you having a similar background, I'm sure you went through similar experiences, no?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, without those resources, that's where the craftiness comes in, right? That's where um, that ability to just kind of say, if I can't, if this way doesn't work, okay, we got to try this way, and then we got to try this way. We got to, so uh, I think I very much am grateful for that corporate experience.
Yeah.
Again, it showed me a great deal. But if I had to choose, if I would go back to corporate, and I'm sure all of us have the option to do that, we can always go back to corporate.
Hmm.
I would consider it to be an easy job, because,
Right?
right, this is where I would retire, would be in corporate, because small business is another monster. But I would not have it any other way. I would never, I can't see myself ever going back to corporate.
That's what
It's
happens. We
just
become
so much easier.
unemployable.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is so much more challenging every day, day in, day out. This is so much more interesting. It's difficult. It's challenging, and if I guess if you're not interested in those things, then I would second guess, small business. you know,
Yeah.
uh, it can't
Look,
be too easy.
that's a great segue. So tell me based on your experience, what does it take to go? What would a person need to have in terms of quality, skill, the way they look at things to make that transition from having a job or a corporate experience
Hmm.
to becoming either self-employed or become a business owner? What do you think
That's
are
a
the
great
characteristics
question.
of that person?
Hmm. Um, I think you would need to have um, a curiosity, right?
Mm,
Uh, Curiosity, um, I think, is what pulled me out of corporate. It's the idea that I see what I'm doing here in my day to day job at this position. I think there's some way that I could do that better. I can do I can improve on this, whatever it is that I'm doing, or there's another way to go about this. So that curiosity, I think, is enough to spark the interest for an entrepreneur. Or if you have the entrepreneurial bug,
right,
it sparks your thought process, and then you start to do the research, right? So your keyword a few minutes ago about resourcefulness, right? Is uh, That curiosity can only go so far, and for
right.
most people, the curiosity stays there. It just lingers, and it may not go anywhere. But the person with the entrepreneurial bug starts to delve a little bit more into it, right? We start to search a little bit. We start to ask questions. We do the research. Then we start to put the money together. Say, well, what if? What if? What if? and then all of a sudden there you are, you're an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
The concept of questioning the way things are today or a better way of doing things, right? Automatically, you're there. You're already there, whether you know it or not.
So
Um,
you're curious, and you have honestly a little bit of an ego, right? I can do this better. I
sure.
can find a better solution to this, and you have high belief in
Hmm.
your abilities and etc. Okay, so you have that. Is that enough though? Is that enough to make that decision and
Never.
jump from one pond to the other?
No, no. I mean, I'm sure you agree, right? I'm sure you agree because it depends on where you are in your life as well,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
If
that
you've
makes a
got a
difference.
family, there's a lot more thought that goes into that. But um, in any of these areas in life where there is a fork in the road, um, you're right. It is very easy to just jump and go. I'm a little bit more meticulous, and I'm like, oh, let's just put the numbers together. I'm a spreadsheet girl. I put the numbers together. I take a look at the scenarios, who it impacts. Um, you know, uh, when you're young, I think that's why I just think about this the other day. I think that's why the majority of startups happen with the younger groups of people, because the responsibility, um, and the people that depend on you is so much greater as you get older. It doesn't mean that it can't happen because you and I are living proof of
Yeah.
having startups and new businesses, later in life. But
But you and
um,
I are not great. We're much younger though. You and
but
I are
we're
so much.
much younger, very close,
Yeah.
very
It's
close to
it's
the
tough to relate to these older people doing things.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But never without a plan, right? Never, for me, never without a plan. I would never jump without a plan. Like I said, the plan could go out the window,
Yeah.
but at least I started somewhere. At least I had a checklist of things that needed to be in place before I jumped, and went on to the next move. So,
I get it. And I will tell you, my perspective is there has never been a better time to become an entrepreneur if you have an entrepreneurial aspiration, right?
absolutely.
Than today. There's never been a
Absolutely.
better time. I think that if you look through history, and I read a lot, so I'm always learning from the past so I can apply in the future and things like that. And if you look at 50, 60 years ago, yeah, the people who launched businesses, or yeah, 70 years ago, they were older. They were
Hmm.
older than they are today. Well, if you look at why, the older people have to rely mostly on experience, like
Yeah.
firsthand experience. So how do you collect that? Through time
Hmm.
and doing things that work and doing things that don't work out. So you build your own knowledge base and your experience and you launch, right?
Yeah.
Now, as time goes on, that entrepreneurs become younger. They start
Hmm.
sooner. Why? Because we have access to a lot more information. If you look
Yeah.
at Gen Zs today that were born with a cell phone in their hands, and they have everything, every piece of information they could possibly want at their fingertips, you see
Hmm.
what's possible sooner. You
Yeah.
can access resources sooner, and the way of thinking is differently because you
Hmm.
said, well,
Hmm.
everybody's got this information. Why are we
Yeah.
waiting? Why
True.
is it that I need to gain experience? The experience is right here. It's in my phone. Somebody did this
Yeah.
already. I can
Right.
do this too, or I can do this better, or I can do this
Yeah.
in a different way. So I think that there's never been a better time for someone who has an entrepreneurial bone in their body
Hmm.
to do something. Now, to your point earlier, I think passion and curiosity super important, right? Because that's what
Hmm.
juices you up inside.
Yeah.
It gets you excited. But it takes a lot more than that. And I think there's way too many people. They go with passion only
Yeah.
or passion
Yeah.
first, and they 12 months from now they're not here. They're not in the
Yeah.
marketplace. I,
That's
I
true.
believe, and this is something that I learned the hard way: profit before passion. Profit
Hmm.
before passion. I think a lot of people get hung up on passion, and they with the little lines that if you do something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That sounds nice, but that's not true.
Right.
That's
Right.
that's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
but if we say something often enough, you repeat it, it becomes true, right? It becomes a
Right.
truth.
Right.
So you could. I was I was taught, I didn't come up with this. It said, save your passion to when you can afford it. So,
Right.
so basically, go with profit, solve problems, get paid, stack cash, make your cash work for you, and then fund
Hmm.
your passion forever. If your
Yeah.
passion is to save pets,
Hmm.
and empty out all the pet shelters and have a big farm of just pets that need a home, fantastic. But that cannot be that can be your start off point. You
Yeah.
can live doing that,
Right.
you know? So
Hmm.
profit and then passion. Then you can fund your passion.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Hmm.
I gotta get off the soapbox because this is not about me.
Well,
It's about Daisy Ramirez.
but you made a good point because oftentimes, right, we use our passion to decide what it is, what path we're going to go. Like you said, somebody who loves animals is going to want to make this space. They're going to want to bring in all the animals that they can. But when you start running a business, it's not the animals, taking care of an animal is not what you do the majority of the time, right? So running a business is very different. So you could be passionate about the product or the service that you're providing, but you also have to be able to part with that product and service in order to grow the company, right?
Yeah,
And make it profitable. And so you might be able to dabble in taking care of some of those animals, here and there. But, if the goal is to generate profit, sometimes you're on the phone, doing collections, marketing your company in order to pay the bills. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So you got to be
absolutely.
at peace with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Profit before passion. If you get nothing out of me today, profit before passion.
Hmm.
So let's get back on the main road of our conversation. So uh, go through the your journey. You decide part of your marriage agreement is that you will help build this business, right? This labor
Yeah.
management software company with your husband. You grow that. You go through challenges, but you build it. 11 employees, number 3 in the country, in the space. Fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, so tell me what happens then. Okay, you're riding high. What happens then?
Yeah. Well, there life happens, and there were some medical problems that I had had at the time. And so it was a decision point if we were going to continue the company. My family is here in Florida. The company was in California. So again, another fork in the road. Was it time for me to be with the family, just in case things didn't turn out well? And but thank goodness everything is fine. But at that point in time, you really start to assess. I had my son, which is the most amazing thing I could ever have happen to me. It doesn't matter if I make billions or whatever. Nothing can be, having my son. So that changes everything, right? I mean, it changes everything. It changes your concept about, what's important in life. I always have the entrepreneurial bug that never goes away, but you prioritize family, a little bit more. So we made the move to Florida. We sold the company.
Okay.
What was great about that at the time was that we had positioned the company to a point that, and I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. Uh, we had systemized what we were doing to a point
Mm,
that when we sold the company, we closed the business. I negotiated the ability for all of the employees to transition in the sale. We closed the business on a Friday. They reopened on Monday as if nothing even happened.
that's all.
If I can't find somebody to code this for me, then I'm going to have to learn how to do it myself. And so that's what I did. I got on, I started to do some research for platforms that might be available that I could do. I'm not 100% coder. I can code. I've learned how to code. But I'm more of a power user kind of person, so by that time, you start to come across things called low code and no code platforms. And so I started to research that a little bit more and found some solutions that I found. Maybe this, it's kind of a 50-50 deal. I have to do some coding, but I don't have to do it all. So then I taught myself how to use the platform. And then, I built out the first Village Connect, which is the name of the platform, that has a business directory, can feature local businesses. can share expertise for local businesses, and so on and so forth. But I think it's just another example, right? Of do we quit? Do we quit there? Even
Yeah.
when something has to say, I don't know. I don't know that I'm done here yet. I don't think this is finished, And and I think it's the entrepreneurial spirit that does that because otherwise there is no logical reason to continue, right? You lost this money. It's not, doesn't make sense. It's just
Yeah.
something that you have.
I think, you said earlier about being passionate about what you want to do, and that's
Mm-hmm.
part of it. But I think the piece that perhaps we thought about, but we didn't say in today's conversation is having an eternal optimism,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
being optimistic about the future. And
Yeah.
and that's a trait of entrepreneurs. They don't think things are
Mm-hmm.
going to be bad tomorrow. They think they're going to get
Mm-hmm.
better because they're going to make it better. And,
Yeah.
and 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 they're going to figure out a way to make it better. So you see a problem. This is what happened. Your journey is very emblematic, right, of what
Mm-hmm.
a lot of entrepreneurs we go through. Number one, you said, okay, what's next? Number
Mm-hmm.
two, you're solving a problem. You need to solve a problem that you currently have, right? Your
Right.
problem was I can't connect with people, local businesses in
Mm-hmm.
the area, and I like to support local businesses versus big business. How do I
Right.
do that easily? Why not? There's no easy way. Oh, why not?
Mm-hmm.
So you start thinking about that. How could I possibly, you know, move the needle in the right direction to solve that problem? Because I haven't, and perhaps many other people have a similar situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you say, okay, I'm going to build this platform where people don't have to be, they don't have to solely rely on Google because Google
Mm-hmm.
is highly biased by the money that people pay. And who pays the most? Bigger companies, not local companies.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking for a solution to that. And then you say, oh, I'm going to build something that is focused on the small business, local small business.
Mm-hmm.
And you have an idea to do it. You realize, oh, wait, I can get this far, but the next few steps, I kind of beyond my skill set. I need
Mm-hmm.
help.
Yeah.
That's something that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do.